"Don't come to Easter brunch," my sister Madison texted. "My fiancé's father is a bank president. You'd be mortifying with your little tech support job." I replied, "Okay." Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. that bank president, Richard Hartwell, entered my boardroom for an acquisition meeting. His eyes swept the room. The mahogany table, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown, the Wall Street Journal profile framed on the wall with my face under the headline FinTechu of the Year. How Maya Chin Built a $340 million empire by age 32. He started screaming because his son Derek was standing beside him, about to pitch their bank services to my company, and they'd spent the entire weekend telling Madison how they'd elevate her family's status away from her failure sister. But let me back up. Because this story doesn't start in a boardroom. It starts 28 years ago when my parents decided which daughter would be the investment, and which would be the disappointment. If you've ever been the family scapegoat while a golden child got everything, keep listening. This gets satisfying. My sister Madison was born beautiful. I was born curious. In my family only one of those things mattered. Mom enrolled Madison in pageants at age 4. Piano at 5. Etiquette classes at 6. Every dollar, every weekend, every conversation revolved around Madison's potential. She had the looks, the charm, the social intelligence to marry well, which was, according to my mother, a woman's most important career. I had thick glasses, math competitions, and a coding hobby that Dad called playing on the computer. When I was 12, I asked for a laptop for my birthday. Dad laughed. "Madison needs braces. We're not wasting money on your computer games." Madison got the braces. She also got the Sweet 16 party, $8,000, the new car at 17, BMW, the college apartment off campus, $2,400 per month, and the post-graduation Finding Yourself year in Europe, $45,000. I got a used desktop from a garage sale that I bought with money from tutoring. I taught myself to code using free YouTube tutorials and library books. I got a full scholarship to state school, worked 3 jobs, and graduated with a double major in computer science and business. The week I graduated, Madison announced her engagement to Trevor Whitmore, from the Connecticut Whitmores, darling, at a family dinner. Mom cried happy tears. Finally, a connection to real society. Dad raised his glass. To Madison, who always knew her worth. My achievement that week? Landing a junior developer position at a struggling fintech startup called PayBridge. Salary, $52,000. Tech support, Mom translated dismissively. "Well, someone has to answer phones." I didn't correct her. I was too busy learning everything about financial technology, blockchain security, and digital payment infrastructure. 3 years later, PayBridge's founder, a brilliant but chaotic visionary named James Park, promoted me to lead developer. 6 months after that, he made me CTO. The company grew from 15 employees to 83. Our valuation hit $18 million. Then James got cancer. Stage 4 pancreatic. He had 6 months, maybe less. He called me into his hospital room. "I want you to have the company, Maya. Buy me out. Whatever you can afford. Use it to take care of my wife and kids after I'm gone." I had $127,000 in savings. I took out loans for another $300,000. James sold me 60% of PayBridge for $427,000, about 1/20th of what it was worth. He died 3 weeks later. I was 27 years old, suddenly the majority owner and CEO of a fintech company with 8-figure revenue potential. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? They'd never asked about my job beyond confirming it wasn't important. Mom still introduced me as Maya. She does something with computers, while spending 30 minutes detailing Madison's Pinterest-perfect engagement party. I worked 18-hour days. We landed a contract with a major credit card processor. Then another with a regional bank consortium. Our transaction volume exploded. Revenue hit $47 million in year 1 under my leadership. $89 million in year 2. By year 3, we were processing $2.4 billion in annual transactions. Fortune magazine called. Wall Street Journal called. Forbes called. I gave the interviews. The profiles ran. Maya Chin, the invisible CEO, Forbes. How a 30-year-old built fintech's next unicorn, Wall Street Journal. CEO of the Year, Maya Chen's $340 million revolution, fortune. My family never read business publications. Meanwhile, Madison's life became my mother's full-time obsession. The engagement to Trevor lasted 18 months before he left her for his ex-girlfriend. Mom blamed the stress of planning a wedding to someone so prominent. Then came Derek Hartwell, son of Richard Hartwell, president of Piedmont Banking Group, a regional bank with 47 branches and $8.2 billion in assets. To my mother, this was better than the Whitmores. Banking royalty, she breathed. Old money stability. The engagement happened fast. Derek proposed after 4 months. Madison said yes. Mom planned an Easter engagement brunch at their country club. $18,000 for 80 guests. I got the "don't come" text on Good Friday. What my family didn't know: Piedmont Banking Group had been courting Paybridge for 8 months. Richard Hartwell himself had sent the initial inquiry through his chief innovation officer. They wanted to acquire our payment processing technology. Their legacy systems were hemorrhaging market share to fintech companies like mine. They needed to modernize or die. The preliminary offer was $340 million. All cash. With me staying on as president of their digital banking division for 3 years, plus $2 million annual salary and 15% of the division's growth profits. I'd been in negotiations with their team for months. We'd gone through due diligence, tech audits, compliance reviews, and financial modeling. We were scheduled to present final terms to Piedmont's executive board, including President Richard Hartwell, on Tuesday, April 16 at 9 a.m. Easter Sunday was April 14th. When Madison's text arrived, I was in my home office reviewing the acquisition presentation with my CFO, Marcus. "Your sister?" he asked, seeing my expression. "Telling me not to come to her engagement brunch. Her fiancé's father is Richard Hartwell." Marcus started laughing. He laughed so hard he had to sit down. "The same Richard Hartwell who's been calling you the most impressive CEO I've encountered in 20 years? That Richard Hartwell. That's the one. Does she know you're acquiring? Wait, does she know anything about your company? She thinks I do tech support." Marcus wiped his eyes. "Why? Tell me you're going to that meeting on Tuesday." "Of course I'm going. It's a $340 million acquisition." "No, I mean, are you going to tell them?" "Before the meeting. I thought about 28 years of Madison needs, and we can't waste money on Maya's hobbies. I thought about my mother introducing me as, she does something with computers, at Madison's engagement party while Madison stood in her $4,200 dress that Mom had bought her. I thought about that text. You'd be mortifying." "No," I said. "I don't think I will." "What would you do?" "Drop a comment below. Revenge or give them a heads up." Easter Sunday, I did what I always did when excluded from family events. I worked. I spent the morning refining our presentation. I rehearsed the valuation justification. I reviewed competitive analyses showing why Piedmont needed us more than we needed them. At 11 a.m. my phone started buzzing. Instagram posts from the brunch. Madison in a blush pink dress, Derek in a navy blazer, both sets of parents beaming. Then the family group chat exploded. "Mom, such a lovely brunch. The Hartwells are wonderful people. Derek's father Richard is so distinguished. Aunt Carol, Madison, you've done so well. Banking aristocracy. Dad, Richard Hartwell runs a bank with over $8 billion in assets. That's real success. Madison, Derek's parents want to help elevate our whole family." Smiling face, smiling eyes, "they have connections everywhere. Mom, unlike some people who are happy staying small." That last one was directed at me. It always was. "Madison, Richard said he's looking forward to helping our family access real opportunities. Mom mentioned you work in tech? He said their bank has a call center if you want a stable job." 2 hearts. A call center. Richard Hartwell, who'd spent 8 months negotiating to acquire my company for $340 million, had apparently told my family his bank had a call center position for me. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I texted Marcus, "Is Derek Hartwell on the acquisition team?" He sent back, "Checking. Yes. He's listed as attending Tuesday's presentation. VP of Business Development. Why? No reason. See you Tuesday." I spent Sunday evening stress testing every number in our presentation. I wanted this airtight. Not because I was worried about the deal. Our tech was worth every penny of that $340 million. But because I wanted no room for anyone to claim I'd succeeded through luck rather than skill. Monday I got my hair done. I wore my Tom Ford navy suit, the one I'd bought after the Fortune interview. My grandmother's jade earrings. Jimmy Choo heels. I looked like exactly what I was. A CEO who'd built a $340 million company from a $427,000 gamble and 18-hour workdays. Monday evening, Madison posted a photo. Her and Derek at dinner, captioned, "Celebrating our future together. His parents are going to change our family's entire trajectory." I liked the photo. I commented, "Happy for you. Red heart." She replied privately, "Thanks, Maya. I know Easter was awkward, but Derek's parents are just particular about their circles. I hope you understand." "I understand completely," I wrote back. "Good luck with everything." I meant it. Because in 14 hours her particular future father-in-law was going to walk into my boardroom, see my face in that Wall Street Journal profile, and realize he'd spent Easter Sunday suggesting a call center job for the CEO he was about to pay $340 million. Tuesday morning I arrived at Paybridge headquarters at 7:15 a.m. Our offices occupied the entire 23rd floor of the Sterling building downtown. Glass walls, minimalist design, the kind of space that Fortune magazine had photographed for their Workplaces of Tomorrow feature. Marcus met me in my office with coffee. "You're cruel," he said, grinning. "I love it." "I'm not being cruel. I'm conducting business." "You're conducting a masterclass in karma. There's a difference." My assistant Priya knocked. "The conference room is ready." I hung the Wall Street Journal profile like you asked, right across from the head of the table. "Thank you, Priya. Also," she lowered her voice, "I may have Googled the Hartwell family last night. Derek's LinkedIn says he specializes in relationship banking and business development. He has 17 connections. And how many connections do I have? 8,412. Including 3 senators, the CEO of MasterCard and the founder of Square." Marcus laughed. "This is going to be beautiful." At 8:45 a.m., I walked to the conference room. The Wall Street Journal profile hung exactly where I'd requested. A 4-foot framed print showing me in front of our server room, headline in bold, "Fintech CEO of the Year. How Maya Chin Built a $340 million Empire by Age 32. Below it, the article excerpt. "I taught myself to code because no one thought I was worth investing in," Chin says. "Best motivation I ever had." Our team assembled. Marcus as CFO, Jennifer our CTO, David our Chief Compliance Officer, and Priya coordinating. Everyone knew about the family connection. Everyone was trying not to smile. "Professional," I reminded them. "This is a business transaction. Whatever happens personally is secondary." "Of course," Marcus said, absolutely failing to look professional. At 8:52 a.m. building security called. "Ms. Chin, the Piedmont Banking Group delegation is here. Send them up." I stood at the window looking out over the city. 23 floors below, morning traffic crawled through downtown. From here you could see the Piedmont Banking Group headquarters. A traditional stone building, old money architecture, everything my family thought represented real success. In 8 minutes, the president of that building was going to realize that the daughter he'd suggested for a call center position was the CEO he'd been negotiating with for 8 months. "They're in the elevator," Priya called. I turned from the window. Smoothed my suit jacket. Checked my reflection in the glass. Composed, professional, powerful. The elevator chimed. Richard Hartwell entered first. 62, silver hair, Brooks Brothers suit, the assured stride of someone who'd never been told no. Behind him, 3 executives I'd been negotiating with via video calls. Susan Park, Chief Innovation Officer, Thomas Brennan, General Counsel, and Michael Torres, CFO. And Derek. 29, sandy hair, navy suit that cost less than my shoes. He carried a leather portfolio embossed with Piedmont's logo. They all stopped in the doorway. Not because of me, I was standing to the side. They stopped because of the Wall Street Journal profile hanging on the wall. 4 feet wide. My face. That headline. Richard's eyes went to the profile. Then swept the room. The glass walls, the view, the technology displays showing our real-time transaction processing. Then to me. "Miss Chin," he said slowly. Waya Chin. Mr. Hartwell. Welcome to Paybridge. I extended my hand. I believe we have an acquisition to finalize. His face went through several emotions. Confusion, recognition, disbelief, and then something close to horror. Derek made a choking sound. Maya? Madison's sister Maya? Hello, Derek. Congratulations on your engagement. Richard looked at the Wall Street Journal profile, then back to me. You're Maya Chin. The Maya Chin. Paybridge's founder and CEO. That's correct. Please sit. I gestured to the conference table. No one moved. There must be some mistake, Derek stammered. You work in tech support, Mom said. Madison said you answer phones for some startup. I did answer phones, I said calmly. In 2017 when we had 15 employees and I was doing every job that needed doing. Now we have 247 employees, and I focus primarily on strategy and acquisitions. I looked at Richard. Like this one. Susan Park, their CIO who I'd actually enjoyed working with, had started to smile. Mr. Hartwell, we've been negotiating with Ms. Chin for 8 months. She's been the primary contact for all technical and strategic discussions. But, Easter, Richard said, his voice faint. We had Easter brunch. Derek said his fiancé had a sister who worked in tech. We thought. He trailed off, understanding dawning. Oh my God. You suggested I might be interested in a call center position, I said pleasantly. Through my sister. It was thoughtful. Derek had gone pale. I told Madison my parents could help your whole family access real opportunities. I said my father runs a bank with over $8 billion in assets. $8.2 billion, I corrected. As of Q4 last year. Though your operational costs are running high, about 73% of revenue, which is why you're losing market share to digital-first competitors. It's in the analysis we prepared. I nodded to Marcus, who slid bound presentations across the table. This can't be happening, Derek whispered. But it was happening. And I was just getting started. Gentlemen, Miss Park, please sit. We have a lot to cover. I took my seat at the head of the table, my chair slightly higher, positioned in front of that Wall Street Journal profile. They sat slowly. Richard looked like he was attending his own funeral. Derek kept staring at me like I'd sprouted a second head. Let's begin with the valuation, I said. Marcus advanced the presentation on the screen. $340 million, all cash. This is based on Paybridge's current transaction volume of $2.4 billion annually, our growth rate of 340% over 3 years, and our proprietary security architecture that your compliance team valued at $120 million alone. 47 companies tried to recruit or acquire us last year, Jennifer added. We're only at this table because Ms. Chin specifically wanted to work with a regional bank that could benefit most from modernization. That's very generous, Thomas Brennan said carefully. He was the only one who seemed to have recovered his composure. It's strategic, I corrected. Your bank has strong regional presence but antiquated infrastructure. We have cutting-edge technology but want deeper integration with traditional banking systems. It's complementary. Ms. Chin, Richard finally spoke. His voice was steady but his hands trembled slightly. I owe you an apology. Several apologies. Easter Sunday I suggested. I implied that I might be suitable for a call center position. Yes. I didn't know. You didn't ask. I kept my voice level, professional. In 8 months of negotiations, you never asked your son who his fiancé's sister was. You never asked Madison what I actually did. You made assumptions based on limited information. I paused. It's a common mistake in business. Making decisions without complete data. The room was silent. However, I continued, personal matters aside, this is a sound acquisition. Your bank needs our technology. We want your infrastructure. The deal makes sense for both parties. Unless you don't want to work with me anymore, Derek said suddenly. He sounded panicked. Because of Madison. Because we didn't. Because Easter. I looked at him. Really looked at him. 29 years old, VP title he probably got because of his father, terrified that his personal life had just destroyed his professional credibility. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered Madison's text. You'd be mortifying. Derek, I'm not emotional about business. If this acquisition makes financial sense, my feelings about Easter Sunday are irrelevant. I turned to Richard. But I do have one question before we proceed. Anything, Richard said immediately. The division I'd be running. Digital banking, $2 million annual salary, 15% of growth profits. Is that offer still on the table? Yes, Richard said. Absolutely yes. Miss Chen, that offer was made because you're the most capable executive I've encountered in 2 decades of banking. Nothing that happens Sunday changes your qualifications. Good. Because I'm accepting. I slid a signed letter across the table. My attorneys reviewed the terms. I'm ready to proceed. Relief flooded Richard's face. Then confusion. You're accepting? Even though you suggested I work in a call center? Yes. I smiled. Mr. Hartwell, here's what you don't understand. For 28 years my family told me I wasn't worth investing in. They were wrong. For 8 months, you've been telling me I'm worth $340 million. You were right. I stood. Everyone stood with me. What happened Sunday was personal family drama. What happens today is business. I don't confuse the two. I looked at Derek. Though I'd appreciate if, moving forward, you asked people about their work before making assumptions about their capabilities. Of course, Derek said quickly. Absolutely. I'm so sorry. Apology noted. Now, shall we discuss integration timelines? For the next 2 hours we finalized the acquisition. It was professional, detailed, exactly what 8 months of preparation had built toward. Richard signed first. Then Susan, Thomas, and Michael. Finally Derek, his hand shaking slightly as he added his name to the document that made me $340 million richer and his boss. Miss Chen, Richard said as they prepared to leave. Is there any chance you'd join us for dinner this week? My wife Barbara and I would like to properly welcome you to the Piedmont family. And Derek's right, I owe you a much more substantial apology. I appreciate that. My assistant will coordinate scheduling. I shook his hand. Congratulations on a smart acquisition, Mr. Hartwell. Congratulations on building something worth acquiring, Ms. Chen. They filed out. All except Derek, who lingered at the door. Does Madison know? He asked quietly. About any of this? No. Are you going to tell her? I thought about that text. About 28 years of being the disappointing daughter. About Easter brunch where they discussed elevating my family away from me. Actually, I said, I think I'll let you tell her. Tonight when you explain why you're suddenly working for her tech support sister. Derek's face went pale. She's going to, oh God. Yes, I agreed. She is. Derek left. Marcus shut the conference room door and started laughing. That was the most professionally savage thing I've ever witnessed, he said. You made him grovel while finalizing a deal where you become his boss. I didn't make him do anything. I conducted business. Why? You conducted a masterclass in power dynamics. There's a difference. My phone rang. Madison. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. Finally I answered. Hi, Madison. Why? Her voice was shrill. Derek just called. He said, he claims you're buying his father's bank. I'm not buying the bank. The bank is acquiring my company for $340 million. Silence. Then, that's impossible. You do tech support. I'm the CEO and founder of PayBridge Technologies. We process $2.4 billion in annual transactions. Forbes named me one of their 30 under 30. Fortune did a cover story. Wall Street Journal profiled me last month. I kept my voice calm. You never asked, so I never told you. But, Mom said you answer phones. I did 7 years ago when we had 15 employees. Now we have 247. And as of this morning, your fiancé works in my division. Your division? I'm staying on as president of digital banking. Derek reports to someone who reports to me. Technically, I'm several levels above him in the org chart. More silence. Then weakly, why didn't you come to Easter? You texted me not to come. You said I'd be mortifying because my little tech support job wouldn't fit with Derek's family. I let that sink in. So I stayed home and prepared for the acquisition meeting instead. Oh my God. Her voice broke. Mom's going to, when she finds out that Easter. Madison, I need to go. Congratulations again on your engagement. I hung up. Within an hour my phone exploded. Mom, Pia, call me immediately. Madison is hysterical. Dad, is it true you own a company worth $340 million? Aunt Carol, why didn't you tell us you were so successful? Mom, you let us exclude you from Easter when you could have just told us. That last one stopped me cold. Let them exclude me. As if the exclusion was somehow my fault for not preventing it by revealing my success. Have you dealt with family who only valued you after they discovered your success? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone. I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb. I had a press release to approve. Piedmont Banking Group acquires PayBridge Technologies for $340 million. Names founder Maya Chin as president of Digital Banking Division. It went live at 3 p.m. By 4 p.m. it was trending on LinkedIn. By 5 p.m. the local business journal had called for comment. By 6 p.m. my mother had left 8 voicemails. I listened to the first one. Maya, this is getting out of hand. People are calling us asking why we didn't mention our daughter was a CEO. You're making the family look bad. Making the family look bad. Not we're proud of you. Not we're sorry we didn't support you. Just concern about how they looked. I deleted the voicemails without listening to the rest. The wedding happened 4 months later. Madison and Derek married at the country club, the same venue where Easter brunch had been held. I was invited. Prominently. Mom called personally. Maya, sweetheart, of course we want you there. Your family. And Derek's parents specifically requested you be at the head table. I'll be out of the country, I lied. Business in Singapore. Can't you reschedule? For your sister's wedding. Mom, she texted me not to come to Easter because I'd be mortifying. Now you want me at the head table. What changed? That's not, you're twisting things. We just didn't realize you were so successful. If we'd known. If you'd known I was worth something, you'd have treated me better. I understand. That's exactly the problem. I didn't go to the wedding. Instead, I spent that weekend at a Forbes Women's Summit, speaking on a panel about building companies in your 20s. A 23-year-old in the audience asked me, how did you keep going when people didn't believe in you? I stopped waiting for permission to be worth something, I said. I stopped trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided I wasn't worth their investment. And I built something anyway. The audience stood and applauded. 6 months after the wedding, I ran into Derek at a company strategy meeting. He'd been working hard, actually, learning digital banking, taking initiative, proving he was more than his father's son. Maya, Ms. Chin, he corrected himself. We kept things strictly professional. I wanted to thank you. For still doing the deal. Even after everything. Derek, business is business. No, I mean, you could have humiliated me. Humiliated all of us. You didn't. You were professional even when we weren't. I considered this. Derek, I spent 28 years being dismissed by people who should have believed in me. I built a company worth $340 million to prove I had value. But somewhere in that process I realized something. I didn't need to prove anything. Not to my family, not to you, not to anyone. I already knew my worth. Madison asks about you sometimes, he said quietly. I think she regrets how things went. Does she regret treating me badly, or does she regret treating me badly after discovering I was successful? There's a difference. He didn't have an answer. A year after the acquisition, PayBridge's technology had increased Piedmont's transaction volume by 340%. Richard Hartwell sent me a bonus, $4.8 million. The note attached said, Maya, thank you for being gracious enough to work with us despite our failure to recognize your worth immediately. You were right, I made decisions without complete data. I won't make that mistake again. Richard. I framed it. Not because of the money, though $4.8 million was nice, but because it was the apology my own family never gave. Mom still calls occasionally. She's proud now, she says. She tells her friends about her daughter this eve. She wants to have lunch to reconnect. I'm cordial. I'm polite. But I remember that text. You'd be mortifying. I remember 28 years of Madison getting every investment, every opportunity, every bit of faith, while I was the one not worth the cost of a laptop. And I remember learning the most valuable lesson of my life. The people who should love you unconditionally but don't. They're not your family. They're just relatives. My real family was James Park, who sold me a company for a fraction of its value because he believed in me. Marcus, who stood beside me through every sleepless night. Jennifer, Priya, David. People who saw my capability before they knew my net worth. Those are the people who get my time now. Those are the people who earned it. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the family that raises us isn't the family that values us, and that's okay. Build your own table. Fill it with people who saw your worth all along. And let everyone else see that Wall Street Journal profile and wonder what they missed.